Greetings to Dr. Ratnaria and my fellow friends. I am Privini K. Subramaniam here. My matrix number is 269968. Today I am going to present regarding the case which includes the military and paramilitary in and against Nicaragua. Nicaragua is set between the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. It's a Central American nation known for its terrain of lakes, volcanoes, and beaches. On 9 April 1984, Nicaragua filed an application instituting proceedings against the United States of America, together with a request for the indication of provisional measures concerning a dispute relating to responsibility for military and paramilitary in Nicaragua. On 10 May 1984, the court made an order for the United States from any action restricting access to Nicaragua's ports and mining areas. The court also emphasized that Nicaragua have the right to sovereignty and political independence possessed by the state itself like any other states. Nicaragua claimed that the United States of America is using military force in their country's internal affairs, sovereignty, territorial rights, and political independence. For example, 1,400 people have been killed in Nicaragua by the US created army. More than 113,000 people have been displaced, including more than 20,000 people have been evacuated when the oil storage facilities were set aflame by rockets supplied by the United States in an attack planned by the United States itself. As we see more into this case, we can see that the customary law had been violated by the United States of America, in where the state intervened in the affairs of another state, used force against another state to infringe of sovereignty of another state and to interrupt peaceful maritime commerce. Previously, United States announced on 18 January 1985 that intends not to participate in any other proceedings. Unfortunately, in September 1991, Nicaragua too informed that the court did not wish to continue the proceeding too. At last, the court itself in 26 September 1991 closes this case.
Hi, my name is Dharmaraj Chanalaki Kumar and my matrix number is 270312. So before I present my study case, I would like to say a good and safe day to Professor Maria Dr. Ratnaria Binti Wahid, and thanks for the opportunity, Doctor. And my case study will be about oil platforms, which is a conflict between two states of Islamic Republic of Iran, which is massively known as Iran, against the United States of America. The facts of the case is that Iran claimed that the USA had breached the freedom of commerce provision in the 1955 Treaty of Amity, economic relations and consular rights. As an counterclaim against Iran allegation, US state that Iranian attacks on the naval vessels which first of all breached of the treaty at the first place. So I would like to explain in depth about the major happening that led to this case. So in a tanker war between 1980 to 1988, Iran and Iraq attacked many military and commercial vessels in Persian Gulf. Due to that, far greater loss and grave damage to many countries. So Kuwait asked the assistance of the USA, and the USA placed 11 Kuwaiti vessels under US registry. Unfortunately, both Kuwaiti and US naval escort and vessel were attacked during 1987 and 1988, especially an oil tanker named Sea Isle City was attacked and escalated the issue into far worse scenario, which makes 6 crew members injured and the ship is totally damaged. In an effort to prevent further attacks, US took action against two Iranian offshore oil platforms were captured by the USA, and Iran stated that offensive military purposes were used in the action by the USA state. But according to the USA, notice to evacuate the oil offshore were given, and a letter to the UN Security Council, United Nations Security Council, were given to state that all these actions of USA were in act of self-defense of their state. So the judgment of the case, we will look on the judgment of the case. So the judgment of the case is that on 6 November 2003, the ICJ properly rejected the claim from Iran and finding that the US action against the oil platforms did not disrupt commerce between territories of Iran and United States. Not only that, from the outcome of the case, it also raised a question whether all the Iranian attacks is it whether right for USA to declare self-defense is a right choice to curb the situation. So lastly, we will look on the principles derived from this case. So this case is an emphasis on its implication for international law on the use of force. Not only that, this case also become the basic rules of governing self-defense. So from this case and from the outcome of this case, several principles, especially on the measure point and triggering point of a state self-defense were stated. Firstly is the gravity of attack. There is a certain level of gravity before triggering a right of self-defense. Secondly, special intent of the attacking state. Attacks which are not aimed specifically at a particular state must possibly not trigger act of self-defense. Thirdly, necessity. Necessity means that triggering act of self-defense must have a real and major necessity. And lastly, proportionality. Proportionality means where proportionality will be taken into consideration of self-defense as Iran and USA conflict as imbalance of proportionality in self-defense by the USA state. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Faris Aiman bin Muhammad Barka Ali. My metric number is 270772. So I'm going to talk about the case of the armed activities on the territory of the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo alleged that Uganda bore international responsibility for acts of armed aggressions perpetrated on the territory of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is including by supporting the rebel movements or irregular forces operating within the Congo. Uganda contended that its military presence within the Congo was necessary in order to defend itself against the transborder attacks emanating from the Congo territory. The Uganda army invaded portions of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo later filed a request for the indication of provisional measures to put stop to all military activity and violations of human rights and the sovereignty of the Democratic Republic of the Congo by Uganda. On 1st July 2000, the court ordered each of the two parties to prevent and refrain from any armed actions which might prejudice the right of the other party or aggravate dispute, and also to ensure full respect for the fundamental human rights and applicable provisions of humanitarian law. Uganda subsequently filed a counter memorial containing 3 counterclaims. By an order of 29 November 2001, the court found that 2 of the counterclaims, which is the acts of aggressions that committed by the Democratic Republic of Congo against Uganda and the attacks on Ugandan diplomatic premises, were admissible as such and form part of the proceedings. The court first dealt with the question of the invasion of the Democratic Republic of Congo by Uganda. After examining the materials submitted to it by the parties, the court found that from August 1998, Congo had not consented to the presence of Ugandan troops on its territory. The court then rejected Uganda's claim that its use of force was an exercise of self-defense after finding that the preconditions for self-defense did not exist. Other than that, by actively extending military, logistic, economic, and financial support to irregular forces operating on the territory of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Uganda had violated the principle of non-use of force in international relations and the principle of non-intervention. The court also considered that it had credible evidence to conclude that the UPDF, or the Ugandan People's Defense Force, troop had committed violations of international humanitarian law and human rights. Therefore, the courts stated that Uganda to be guilty of serious violations of international human rights law and the international humanitarian law.